You are watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV, proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel in Tebe. My name is Bruno Edgard. Thank you for joining us today. And Senior 4 candidates are still undergoing the examinations, but as they are going through the examinations, we have the PLE candidates who are about to start next week. So we're going to have a discussion on how UNEB, how ready UNEB is when it comes to the PLE examinations. But we're also going to talk proper about exam malpractice. It has become an issue during the UCE examinations, and so we're going to talk about how UNEB can curtail this problem so that the candidates sit their examinations without any malpractice. Thank you for joining us once again. Now, if you want to be part of this conversation, please send us a WhatsApp message on 0787 447 684 0787 447 684. We will be glad to hear from you. Now, my guests today to talk about these issues, I have Mrs. Annet Kemaali, the Senior Legal Officer of Uganda National Examinations Board, and then Mrs. Jennifer Kalule Musamba, Senior Communications Officer, also from Uganda National Examinations Board. You are welcome to Issues at Hand.
Thank you, Edwin. It's always a pleasure to be over here, and a very good morning to all the viewers. We bless the Lord for all of you, and we are grateful to be here this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and we look forward to interacting with you.
Fantastic. Let's start from, I know a lot of people are itching to hear the discussion on malpractice, but even before we go there, let's start from PLE. The examinations are coming soon. I understand 8th and 9th November. What should we look forward to? And take us through the roadmap for PLE. When is the briefing, when are examinations starting, and how ready UNEB is for PLE examinations?
Thank you so much, Edwin. Actually, ideally, timetable officially begins on Monday, the 7th of November, with a briefing of candidates. And here we expect the head teachers to be at all the centers to brief the candidates and take them through what are the do's and don'ts, what tantamounts to a malpractice, what are the things you need to avoid. There are things we may take for granted but are very critical. For instance, candidates need to know that in case your pen runs out of ink, you're not at liberty to use a pencil, because once you do your work in pencil, then it will not be valid. So we need to make sure we brief all our candidates and brief them of all what they need to do and what they don't need to do. But most importantly, reassure them, comfort them, encourage them, assure them that indeed they are able to make it. The Lord who has brought them this far will certainly enable them to come to an end successfully. So that will be on Monday the 7th, when the head teachers are going to be briefing the candidates from the schools or from the sitting centers. Then on Tuesday is the D-Day.
Before we go to Tuesday, will the parents be present at the briefing?
Initially, we had encouraged parents to be present at the briefings. However, we want to leave it to the schools, because right now, due to the health situation in the country, we don't want to have a lot of mix-ups. So, and I think Ministry of Education is discouraging it. So I think what some schools are doing, those which are able to, they are going to be doing the online sessions. However, even if you're not able to do that, if you do not have enough space or something like that, I think we're leaving the discussion with the teachers to determine if the parents should be able to go in or not. But parents can also maybe join in online. But also want to encourage the parents who are parents of boarding school candidates to want to encourage schools to make arrangements for parents maybe to call, give them a phone day, maybe like on Saturday or Sunday, so they can be able to call and talk to their candidates and encourage them, motivate them, say a prayer or two, let them know, yes, we are praying for you, yes, you can make it, the Lord is going to make you go through this, you have the mind of Jesus Christ. Speak positively into their minds, and that contributes quite a lot. But before that, we also want to encourage first of all, we are grateful to all the religious affiliations. At the beginning of UCE, they all joined in and prayed for the candidates and the entire process. And we are sure we've come this far because of all the people who are praying for us. And with this weekend, we still want to encourage all the religious affiliations to kindly join in. On Friday, we encourage the Muslims to pray for the candidates. Saturday, the SDA believers, and then on Sunday, all the Christians. We also encourage them to join in and pray for the candidates as well as the processes that go on in the conduct of this examination.
Wonderful. So after the briefing is done on Monday the 7th, on the 8th of November, PLE candidates of PLE start the examinations proper.
Yes, on Tuesday proper, yes. When the briefing ends, by the way, that is when examinations officially begin. And after briefing, we do not expect any more interaction between the candidates and the teachers. After briefing, there should be no more teaching. After briefing, there should be no more teaching. Basically, the candidates are on their own. And if you are caught, let's say, if anybody sees you trying to maybe teach a candidate or put them in a session in the middle of the night or whatever the case may be, that would tantamount to malpractice, like Council Anne is going to tell you. So we want to encourage the teachers and the head teachers and everybody. The moment briefing ends, examinations have officially started, so candidates should not indulge in any form of engagement with the elders in any way. They should be on their own, no more teaching at that point in time.
Oh, wow, that is wonderful. So are the schools ready to handle the amount of pressure and the tasks that come with carrying out the examinations when it comes to PLE?
That is basically the reason they've been teaching those candidates for the last 7 years, and I'm sure they are ready. I'm sure they are more than ready. We work with them throughout the process, and this process begins with registration, which starts in February. So you can imagine in February they begin registering the candidates. They go on until the early registration that ends in May, when you have late registration in June. So it kind of prepares you. And then after that, we have a display of the candidates' registers where we encourage the parents and the candidates to confirm the data that they've registered for. So once they do that, then in case there are any anomalies that need to be changed, and we've been doing that a lot, and we are hoping that at this point in time, everybody has been able to verify their data. But just in case there's somebody who still finds a mistake in their name or in the date of birth or something that needs to be addressed, kindly let us know. Come to UNEB with those details before Friday at least. Then we can be able to make those adjustments so that you don't have to get into an examination room and you have a mistake on your biodata, because that's what's going to happen to appear on your pass slip. So we want to make sure we have clean data at the very start of the process.
How many candidates are we looking at when it comes to sitting PLE this year?
We are looking at 832,810, close to 830,000 candidates for PLE, and out of these, 52% are female and 48% are males.
Has that increased from the previous years? Because we saw after COVID-19 lockdown, there were some students who never went back to school. So has that increased or has it decreased?
We actually have a 7%, actually it's close to 9% increase in candidature at the PLE level. And usually the average increase in candidature is about 3%. Last year it was about 7%. This time it is about 9% increase in candidature, which is quite understandable because we are looking at, ideally we had 2021 as a dead year, as a silent dead year. We never conducted examinations. So for us, we are happy to have this increase in candidature. Actually, we were anticipating it, and I'm sure even the schools were anticipating it. And like we're talking about preparations, the schools we do validation of centers, and we go ahead and establish how many candidates do you have this year. The schools have a number of candidates they should be able to accommodate based on the space available. So a number of schools this year did apply for expansion of centers, and many of them were given that opportunity to expand their centers. So that means they were anticipating the increase in candidature, and we are more than sure that all our sitting centers are ready to host the candidates this time around.
Oh, wonderful. And when it comes to invigilators and supervisors, we have had some contentious issues because some traditional schools there are some traditional schools that claim that they have their own invigilators. Is this the case, or are invigilators supposed to be external?
The process of invigilators and let's say at primary level, invigilators are are identified by the district inspectors of schools. UNEB works a lot with the district partners, the district officials. Now at PLE level specifically, district inspectors of schools are more or less in charge. They are the managers at that level. So they are the ones who identify the invigilators. And the idea is, you know your people so well, but also because we have so many centers, we have centers almost all over, almost in every village in this country, there is a primary school. And ideally, even if UNEB had a staff of I don't know how many people, we will not be able to effectively get there. That is why we work with the district inspectors of schools. Now the principle is the DISC, or municipal or city inspector of schools, identifies invigilators. They apply and they have to have some basic requirements. They need to know their requirements for being an invigilator, and then they'll go through the vetting process. So if let's say we have 10 schools in this location, now the DIS will know that them say Jennifer and Anna are going to go to this school and invigilate, and then maybe Edwin will come to their school and invigilate. So the idea is to make sure that you do not invigilate in your own school. That is not acceptable. And in case one is found, then we should be able to query that, because that kind of links to a malpractice. It means you need to do some bit of malpractice. So ideally, no teacher is supposed to invigilate in their own schools. They should actually be moving to either maybe another sub-county or something to that effect. However, it is basically the district inspector of schools who is in charge of allocating the invigilators, but this is done under the guidelines of UNEB. And like what is going on right now, at the beginning of this week on Monday, we did have a session of district monitors. People were coming from the center. We briefed them, we trained them and oriented them. And now starting today, they are going to the districts and they are orienting different sectors. People who are going to be involved in the conduct of examinations. And this includes the head teachers, the invigilators, and the scouts at that level, district scouts, who are going to be supporting us in the conduct of this examination. So we go on and brief them, give them the do's and don'ts, their responsibilities, their roles, and we want them to know what they should be doing and what they should not be doing. But most importantly, we are emphasizing why we want to guard against examination malpractice. We also want to be as supportive as possible to the learners. We are encouraging all our officials, don't be harsh to these people. They have already gone through a lot. We have a category of candidates who ideally had to do 2 years almost in 1 year, like we talked about the lockdown. So they've gone through a lot. So we want to encourage everybody who is involved in the conduct of examinations. Let's be as supportive as possible. You can have punitive measures or you can be strict, but without necessarily being so harsh to the candidates or to the learners. And we're asking the head teachers and the teachers and all the school officials, let's not have cases where we are having the children being pushed so much on the wall. We may and we also want to encourage the candidates to be disciplined. We don't have cases of indiscipline so much at PLE, but nonetheless, we need to be cautious. And for the parents and the elders, we need to talk to our learners and encourage them to be disciplined during this period. Because being a UNEB candidate does not mean you are above the school rules and regulations. But at the same time, we need to be parental and guide these learners. Because remember, they are young and they need our guidance.
Now, education is wholesome and should cover every learner involved. Is there accommodation for some candidates with special needs?
Yes, we have a category of special needs education learners, and UNEB always does that. This time round, we have the Braille timetables as well. No, for PLE we don't have Braille timetable because the PLE timetable is very short. We have it for UCE. PLE timetable, Monday morning is mathematics, Tuesday is SST, Wednesday is science and English. You can know it offhand. But for UCE we do have. However, yes, we do have a component, or we accommodate the SNE candidates, special needs education learners, and those who need support. USCs, those who need somebody to read for them, those who are low vision, those who need somebody to help them write. We have all that category. We have people who are going to support them. However, the schools should have registered because to enable UNEB prepare for these candidates effectively. Although there's what we call circumstantial impairment. These are people who may, for instance, God forbid, between now and that day, they get maybe an accident or something, and suddenly they're not able to write for themselves and they need support. We do accommodate that kind of support. However, for the others who are not, let's say like somebody who is asthmatic, somebody who can't write and they need USCs, somebody who has low.
It's anything you do to give an advantage over another candidate. So this act has specific provisions that define what an examination malpractice means. But for the better understanding of the public, it involves hiring a mercenary, someone to come and sit for you, exams. It involves smuggling material in the examination room, and then you're busy copying from that piece of material. Remember, another person is not having advantage of that material. It involves someone giving you prior knowledge of an exam. We've had these incidents happening in, say, practical subjects. You have sent advanced instructions or confidential information, which is not supposed to be known to the candidates. It's supposed to be within the knowledge of the head teacher and the subject teacher. So, in most cases, you get teachers tempted, or they actually execute the plan. They go and expose this information to the candidates. Now, you get candidates writing information which was confidential on their scripts. That means they had prior knowledge of that exam. This is information they ought to have obtained in the examination room. Then we have scenarios where, at examiner's level, where an examiner comes with prior information of the candidates he's going to mark, although now it's not as regular because there's blind marking. And they are busy awarding marks that candidates don't deserve. Then, of course, there is a normal one of leakage, assuming, God forbid, if it happens, but leakage where someone opens an examination box, takes out the exam, takes photos, and starts circulating them on social media. Then candidates have access to that information. So that's a broader view. It's having an unfair advantage over the other candidates. Remember, there are some schools who have not had access, maybe by virtue of not having phones or their location. They are all going to sit the same exam. But these candidates, because their people had their semester plan which they have executed successfully, candidates have prior knowledge of the exam, they have answers, they are not going to come and think in the exam, so they are reproducing what they have been given before, which is not right. So on a broader view, that is what we call examination malpractice.
And why, for a good example is what you said on leakage, because even in my time, we used to have leakage as well. Why is, what feeds this malpractice in terms of a good example is leakage? Because ideally, those papers should be sealed and no one should see them until the day of the examination. So why is it that these papers are able to leak?
Leakage is, if you may have noticed, leakage would ordinarily be, assuming it has happened from the printer or from the board, which doesn't happen. But the process of transporting exams, the moment the board hands over the exams at the storage station, there are people supposed to transport those exams from that storage station to the school. And this is now in the hands of the head teachers or area supervisors. What has been happening, the leakage that you see normally happens between 8 and 9. It's because from that time, it's the head teachers or people who have interest in the exam who have opened. Of course, there is a lot of connivance going on. They've opened, taken photos, and shared them on what? On social media. That is how the leakage occurs. Whatever you have had that may have happened, that's when the leakage occurs. So, what does this mean? One, it puts the examination integrity of our certificates at risk. It renders the examination substandard because you have prepared these candidates. You want them to come and sit the exam and produce what they have learned in all honesty. Now, you have obtained this information, the process of taking examinations, you have taken photos and you have shared them on social media. You have all malpractice going on. The papers are on everyone is accessing them. People are now preparing, people are panicking. Candidates who had read their things before are now trying to figure out how to, compact all that knowledge in a few minutes left to the examination. So that's the impact of leakage. That is how it happens, if it happens. Yes.
And that is actually being controlled quite a lot.
Yes.
We do not have any leakage happening anymore. Even the bit that happens to appear in social media, it is just purported. It is hardly unlikely that you're going to get the actual paper appearing on social media. It is people who are masquerading, who want to make money out of the entire process and create an impression that they actually have access to a UNEB actual paper, but it has not happened before. The last few days, in the last few years, we've been able to control that. And I want to assure the public that UNEB has put in place measures tight measures, tight security measures to ensure there is no leakage of examinations. Even for PLE, which is almost the hardest paper to, to conduct, examination to conduct, we put in place tight measures. We are working with various security agencies. We have the cyber people who are working on the cyber, the police, the cyber, the forensic experts, and we are going to make sure that there's going to be no leakage. Like Council Anne says, this it compromises the integrity and also the standard of our certificates, and UNEB will do anything to make sure that we protect the quality of our certificates. So I want to assure the public, please rest assured there's not going to be any leakage of the papers this time round. And in the last few years, we've not had that because UNEB has put in place tight measures. And that is why at UCE, you realize that head teachers are trying now to use impersonation because they know they can no longer get access to the actual paper before the time of the examination.
And what other measures, apart from working with security agencies and others, are being put in place to ensure that examination malpractice does not become a problem in PLE?
Now, I'm not at liberty to share that, surely. That is our internal mechanism. But just rest assured that we are working with various people and that we put in place various measures. However, we also have what we call the whistleblowers policy. Council Anne can elaborate more on that. But we want to encourage whistleblowers. If anybody out there has got any information that can lead us to a malpractice, or that you think you have useful information which can help us get a lead or something, we encourage you to give us the information. We have a toll-free line, which I'm going to give you shortly. So we encourage you to kindly get in touch with us, give us the information, and you will be protected. So we have various measures, which for security reasons, I'm not at liberty to share right now. But I want to assure the public that we have everything in control and there's going to be no leakage of any examination paper. Trust Mr. Daniel No Crutch Odong. I know what I'm talking about. He's put in place tight measures and there's going to be no leakage. So anyone out there who thinks that they are going to get a paper, don't allow to be woodwinked. Those are just masqueraders. Nobody is going to have access to any PLE paper before it comes out.
Maybe to partly respond to what you have asked, there is now what is obvious to the public. Initially, we had a law that was very weak. It was not comprehensive on the offenses, and then even the sanctions were not comprehensive. So the sanctions moved with what was available. The law of 1983 did not anticipate that there would be malpractice of this nature, where people are taking photos and circulating them on social media, where people sit and come up with something and they are busy confusing. At that time, there was some bit of morality. At that time, teaching and learning was emphasized. At that time, there was no commercialization of education. There were so many factors that favored the act to look the way it was. The offenses were few. Leakage, giving marks where they are not deserved, those just basic things. And even at the time we sat exams, I don't remember military police guarding the exam. They would bring, you see a Land Rover, they put in the head teacher's office. The following day, you're sitting exams. But now, so that law was it's what was being relied on until 2021, when a new law was enacted, the UNEB Act 2021. The challenge we had is that you'd have malpractice being done, but it is not covered under any law. You cannot go to court and start arguing. And even then, the judicial officers would also be put in between a rock and a hard place. They are looking at, there is a problem, the facts are there is a malpractice, but how are you going to preside over such a case when there is no enabling law? And the perpetrators of malpractice knew. They knew you would go to court, you start arguing, court says, where do you derive this offense from? So the case is dismissed. And it became a habit. They knew. Even if there was a malpractice which is covered in that act at the time, the fine was either 50,000 shillings or imprisonment for 2 years. Judicial officers, at the time they sat exams, they didn't see that malpractice was such a heavy thing. They could not comprehend how someone is being brought to court for perpetuating examination malpractice. It was unbelievable. Maybe some of them thought that this is something they are being created, it's not as serious. So they would give a fine of 50,000. It became a joke. People would walk out scot-free. It became a habit. Examination malpractice habits, techniques kept on expanding. The law is weak. we go to court, no one can appreciate where we're coming from. Even you're trying to argue a case, you don't have a backing law. So, with the enactment of this law, it's one of the measures that are in place to ensure that malpractice is fought to the last nail. We want the public to know that they should make every effort to desist from examination malpractice. They should make every effort to report any examination malpractice. Maybe to take you through briefly, I need you to know what we believe can constitute facts that are related to examination malpractice. Under the Act, we are talking about information received before or during the examination, which purports to be examinations, which purports to be related to the exam. This is under Section 25 of the Act, and it's punishing scenarios of these fake papers that are circulating on social media. So what the Act is saying, should you be caught in such an act, should you be found circulating that kind of information, should you be found trying to gain that information and try to use it to confuse the candidates, you will be presumed to have committed an offense, and you'll be liable to a fine of 20 million upon being sentenced, or imprisonment for 5 years. That is offense number 1. Offense number 2 is covered under Section 26. This is a scenario where it's the actual examination. You are transporting, for example, examinations, and you're trying to have access to them before the time of the exam, and you're busy trying to give them to candidates, to give them to whoever you think can take them to people for your own reasons. In most cases, there's a commercial issue, there's buying and selling. We had a scenario where people were calling them the golden boat some time back. So they were selling gold. That was a case that happened in 2017, where the head teacher of a school in at an island opened a box and removed the examinations and was busy selling them. Each paper was selling at 800,000. As you can see, there is a high market. So people were actually paying. At that time, we were using an old law. It was very hard to prosecute such a head teacher on that basis because it was being circulated on WhatsApp, and there was no law covering instances of WhatsApp circulation of exams. Now, we are adequately covered. Engage in that form of malpractice. The offense, upon engaging that kind of malpractice, again, it's 1,000 currency points, which is 20 million, or imprisonment for 5 years. Loss or misuse of an examination paper, material, or information. This catches people who are in charge of the exam. You have been given examination papers to go and deliver, you lose them. Where have you lost them, and how? What are they trying to do? They don't want you to create a scenario where you have deliberately given out the exam and you start telling UNEB that the exam got lost. So you'll be culpable under the law. Why? Because there is a possibility to get in the wrong hands, and it will perpetuate a malpractice in form of leakage. What is the sanction that comes with that? It's 1,000 currency points, which is 20 million, or 5 years in jail. Section 28 talks about damage or destruction of an examination paper, examination material, or any other material or information. This one punishes a person who has information or any evidence that may lead to conviction under this act. This is assuming we have found that there was something on the examination paper, or some material, or these adverse instructions, and you realize that it's going to be used to implicate someone in an examination malpractice. You destroy it on purpose. You'll also be held culpable because you're trying to frustrate the ends of justice. You will be held culpable by a fine of 1,000 currency points. This is 20 million, or imprisonment for 5 years. Impersonation, which has been a common one. This is when you register candidates knowing that they are not the actual candidates. They are mercenaries. They are trying to take advantage. You're trying to give a higher advantage over candidates who have paid you money. People, or they are not actually candidates. Someone wants certificates badly, and then they pay you. You get some people from outside, register them. Those are the cases that have been ongoing. Register them. You know they are not supposed to be sitting this exam, but you're busy declaring they are candidates, they are genuine. You register them. This offense catches both the person who has hired, and the person who has perpetuated the process. If you have noticed the case that is going on in Nabweru, the two cases so far, it's about facilitating. We are hard on the head teachers because head teachers are the ones in charge of registering candidates. They know those forms are very clear. You as a head teacher are supposed to declare accurate information to the board. But because you have been paid, you hire mercenaries, you are allowed to register mercenaries. So that offense is covered under the Act, and the punishment is 1,000 currency points, which is 20 million, or imprisonment for 5 years. And then we have...
And on that, there might be people who are wondering, who are following the Nabweru case and are wondering why Mrs. Munyetesi only got 2 months imprisonment or a fine of 200,000 shillings.
Without preempting the case, Munyesi was this student. Maybe if we can give you a brief background of what happened, and this is in her statement, we are not forging facts. She said she was working as a volunteer in a hospital. Her job was going to be advertised, but they advised her, go and sit senior 4, get a certificate so that you qualify. So Munyesi approaches a teacher that side and says, please help me, be teaching me, give me private classes, or I enroll in a school where I can be attending classes at my convenience because I'm working, then you also give me extra classes. That teacher tells her, no, there's a shortcut. Come, we go to Kampala, I show you someone who can assist you. They come to Kampala. They link her up with someone. The person says, bring 2.5 million, passport photo, an ID, leave the rest to me, I'm going to have you registered. So she hands in, goes back to work. When examinations begin, she comes to Kampala. She reaches the exam room. When she reaches the entrance, they tell her, go and write the name Chidauli Asuman. That is the name you're going to write. She doesn't even know how Chidauli looks like. It's actually the invigilator who knows. So she goes in the examination room. I think she has not been coached on at what point she should write the name. She goes in the examination room. She writes Chidauli Asuman. Chidauli is also in the room, in the examination room, doing examinations, but he has not yet written her name. She intends to write her name at the end, like they've said, time up. So, the invigilator is very busy. She's not going to look at everyone's script. That's when you impose her name on what? On the script you have written. Okay? Chidauli is not interested in what we call volongoto that I've written. Because he's not a candidate, he will come and say, no, I performed poorly, I would like to repeat, assuming that he's at a lower level. Or he finished long time ago and performed well, so whether the results are bad, it's not a problem. UNEB does not refuse people from repeating. So, this process is orchestrated by a line of criminals. As you can see, she comes, she sits the exam in the examination room. That is when she's busted because she writes the name of Chidauli. And this invigilator comes and asks her, who are you? They apprehend her. When they take her to police, she was, I think, remorseful. She realized the magnitude of what she had engaged in. So she disclosed, she made a statement. File was taken to police. At court. When she reaches court, she doesn't waste court's time because she could see that she was actually got in the wrong. So she realized her mistake and she pleaded guilty. As you have heard, those are some of the reasons the head teacher, the magistrate advanced. She did not waste court's time. This girl had already lost a lot of time. She can no longer sit an exam. The parents have lost fees. It cannot be recovered. This girl was remorseful. Under normal circumstances, someone will come and tell you, no, she will waste court's time, yet the facts are very clear. There is no way you can explain how you are writing my name and I'm writing your name. It's illogical. So she was remorseful. She was broken. You could see that this is not something she wanted to engage in. If someone was not there to help her register a mercenary, if someone was not there to tell her that this is a shortcut you can take, this girl would have gone through the process cleanly. She would have studied, she would have had her private classes, she would have had... So to again push her 5 years, what would have been like double jeopardy. Of course, we also want the act to bite. But court also looks at other surrounding circumstances. You look at the person, see what is going on, and you understand this one has been punished enough. She can no longer get her job. There is so much that is going on mentally. So, yes, we know the magistrate uses his discretion. Of course, he cannot go beyond the maximum, because that would be over superseding what is provided for under the Act. But he can go below. And I think, coming from a human heart, he realized that, no, let me do what? Let me give her a lenient sentence. And at least she has also been able to expose what really happened. Yes.
Wow, that's a very interesting. So be warned, for those of you who are planning to be perpetrators when it comes to examination malpractice. Your days are numbered, and the sanctions are going to be heavy. You will not like them. So stay away from examination malpractice. If you're a candidate, please read and trust in God, and you will excel in your examinations. And speaking of which, is there any advice you have for the P7 candidates who are preparing for PLE?
The one thing I want the public to know, your kids, under normal circumstances, if there is no adult involved, these children will not engage in examination malpractice. The person who is pushing this agenda is the head teacher, is the invigilator, is the scout, is, the people who are supposed to be the custodians. They are the ones assisting these children to make a mistake. Please, parents, talk to your children. Tell them to refuse anything that they realize is odd. I'm going to give you a scenario as we wind up. There was a case of malpractice where 31 candidates, a school where 30 were caught in malpractice, only one survived. So the board picked interest in this one candidate whose work did not reflect malpractice in form of external assistance. They were interested, they're like, but how did this happen? Because we scrutinized those scripts one by one, and you realize there's a problem. So we follow up. And after you've rendered the verdict at the hearing, we have an administrative hearing where we invite these candidates. They are now free, they know, loss, so let's tell the truth. So the board picks in this one an interest in this one candidate. They go to investigate, and the classmates themselves said, wewe bulijjo twali tumuyita mulokole nga tosobola muwa bintu n'abikiriza era teyabifuna ye bwe twakola abo batuyamba yagaana yakola ebibye. That is when I knew these adults who are engaging in malpractice, these adults who are assisting children, by God's grace, I pray judicial officers will convict them. Because the damage they are doing to these kids, ladies and gentlemen, you need to know. If you come and attend those hearings and see how your children are denying an offense, which is glaring, you will shed tears. They are intimidated in the process of being transported. This head teacher said, if you tell the truth, you have evidence. We have recorded evidence, video recordings. A child is busy copying. An invigilator is reading answers for them. And then he comes, were you assisted in the examination room? No! Why? No. They deny vehemently. Parents, an adult out there is damaging your child. You have taken your time to raise this child with morals, but there's someone out there damaging them. We call upon you, parents, talk to your children. If they discover someone is doing something wrong, is trying to give them answers before the exam, let them not use those answers. Let them use what they want. The examiners are able to tell that there was something going wrong in the examination room. And that is why we want this act to catch everyone who is trying to help these children in the wrong manner. Whoever is circulating wrong information, whoever is circulating anything on WhatsApp, is going to be caught. Whoever is trying to sell an exam is going to be caught, because you're destabilizing these children. Kids have prepared, their mind is set on what they have been taught, but that someone wants to make money and is busy selling papers. Banange mutuyambe. Report to the board. There is a Whistleblowers Act, and tell them someone has approached me with this information. Tell us, because you'll be saving your children, you'll be saving the integrity of the certificates of the board, you'll be saving the nation, you'll be saving the whole education sector. If the assessment system is flawed, the whole education system is dead. It affects me, it affects you, it affects your child. Thank you.
Any final words on that, especially
Okay,
to parents and to candidates of
P7? I want to take it up from where Council Anna said. Kindly report if you have any relevant information. Let me give you the toll-free lines. We have 0800 211 077. That is 0800 211 077. Or we have a second toll-free line, which is 0800 111 427. 0800 111 427. To the candidates out there, we want to thank the Lord who has brought us this far, and I want to assure you, the Lord who has brought you this far is able to make you pass exceedingly abundantly according to the grace and abilities He has given you. So kindly don't indulge in any form of malpractice. Copying from somebody is a malpractice, and being copied from is a malpractice. It means you, as a candidate, you have a responsibility to protect your work. Make sure nobody copies from you. Wish you God's blessings, and it's going to be well. You will definitely pass by the grace of God. We want to thank the parents and all the teachers and everybody who has been involved in this process. The inspectors of schools at the district level, municipal level, city level, thank you so much for being part of the process. The scouts, the invigilators, the monitors, we want to thank you for accepting to work with the board in conducting this examination. And to the parents and to the media people, you've all been very cooperative. So wish all our candidates God's blessings, and may the Lord richly bless you all.
Amen. And God bless you for coming, both of you, for coming on Issues at Hand today. Thank you so much for telling us about one, preparations for PLE, and two, staying away from examination malpractice. You have all heard one word to a wise man is enough, and please let us not involve ourselves in examination malpractice. Thank you for joining us today, and for you who are parents of P7 candidates, and if you're a P7 candidate, by the grace of God, I don't know how, but if you're watching right now, we are praying for your success indeed. So God bless you. You have the mind of Christ. And for the rest of us, our family members and viewers, God bless you. Have a lovely day, and we shall meet again on Friday. For now, goodbye.